welcome back to Paperback Ponderings. Today we have a very exciting episode because we have Laura R. Samotin joining us for an interview about her duology, the Cursed Crown duology, which is made up of The Sins on Their Bones and The Lure of Their Graves. Thank you for joining us, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to have you here. And just for anybody who has not read the books yet and wants to know a little bit more what they are about, The Sins on Their Bones is set in a world inspired by Eastern Europe and Jewish folklore after the events of a civil war. It follows three main characters, the first being Dmitri, who is the former Tsar of Novosvitsevo, who is now in exile after losing the war against his estranged husband Alexei, who usurped him and took the throne for himself. Now Dmitri is juggling the heartbreak of losing his husband and his sense of duty to retake the throne and save his people. So, with the help of the remains of his court, he plans to send his spy master Vasily to sneak into Alexei's court under a false identity to gather insider information about Alexei's plans. All the while, Dmitri devises a plan to kill Alexei. However, this will not be an easy feat for him because Alexei is no longer an ordinary man. Through a perversion of their religion, Alexei has died and resurrected himself in an immortal body, claiming to be guided by the hand of God as he summons demons from another realm and plans to build an army. So Dmitri is determined to save his country from this corruption, but doing so will mean giving up on his lingering love for Alexei, all the while putting Vasily, the man he is coming to care about more and more, at risk. So, great book. We had a really good time reading this one.
So glad.
Sarah and I have always kind of had a shared love for Eastern European culture, so I think this is a little thrill for both of us.
When I saw that one of the main characters was called Dmitri, I was immediately bought. I was like,
that's all we
needed.
needed.
From Dimitri's of books past.
I'm so glad I could hook you with the name Dmitri.
That's all we needed.
A pleasant surprise as well that it was, you got three different point of views, and there was almost not a love triangle, there was never a love triangle, but like the complexities and the emotions and the ways that each character was tied to the other, and the way that the novel ultimately kind of, or the first book, the Sins of Their Bones, ultimately kind of came to fruition, was just so, I thought, really well done, and you almost felt for each and every character throughout. You did an amazing job, in my opinion, painting Alexei as both the villain, but also you sympathized with him too, because that love was real.
I'm really glad that you say that, because in my opinion, the scariest villains are the ones that you can empathize with a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I love a good villain point of view, because I also think it's like no one is ever the villain of their own story. No one is sitting there thinking like, ooh, I'm the evil villain, I'm rubbing my hands together. Most people who are villainous or who do evil things think that they're doing the right thing, and they think that they are acting either out of love or care or concern or righteousness, or they truly believe that what they're doing is right. And Alexei truly believes that. Like, he really thinks that he is doing the right thing for his country and that he was trying to do the right thing for his husband. And at the end of the day, he would say, well, it all came from love. Mm-hmm. What he doesn't realize is that love and control look very similar, and he never really loved Dmitri the way he needed to be loved. It was all kind of a game of like possession and control, and just wanting to have another possession to dominate, another jewel in his crown. So I think that sometimes people are like, oh, are we supposed to sympathize with Alexei? And I'm like, that's the scariest part, right? Because if you sympathize with Alexei even a little bit, or you're like, actually, he is pretty good at his job. Like, Alexei's like better at ruling than Dmitri could ever be on his best day. Like, I say that openly because if you look at Alexei, you're like, I could see how that can happen. I think it makes it all the more real and all the more vivid that this kind of evil and this kind of abuse, like, it does happen daily in real life.
How was it writing that relationship as an author, constructing both setting Alexei up for the reader to empathize with him a little bit, and then also having that villainous side of him and exploring the abuse aspect in their relationship, both currently what we see on page, but also what's alluded to in the past, and Dimitri's kind of being sold to Alexei as the spare royal child, essentially, and kind of put into the hands of this grown man as a really young, impressionable kind of young man. How was it constructing that? Like, where did you draw from? How was it difficult to write that? What was that process for you?
The process was really interesting, and I think that I owe a lot of credit to my editor in helping draw out what I wanted to draw out from the story. The book starts in a weird spot. It's called in medias res, right? The story starts in the middle. The story starts with Dimitri already having lost a civil war against his ex-husband and having suffered like all of this abuse. And he begins the story in exile, kind of at his lowest point. And so as a writer, I think I did it naively because I was a pretty novice writer when I drafted this book, and I was just like, yeah, that's where it should start. And I didn't really think about the implications one bit. But it's actually really difficult because you are starting with a character at their emotional lowest point, and then you have to get the reader to care about them enough that when you unveil what had happened, they really buy into it. Like when you read their backstory, when you learn what caused them to become the way they are, it's like a gut punch. I don't know if you guys have ever read All for the Game.
No.
Okay. It's a sports romance series about a fictitious sport called XE. So I was gonna say, long story. There are podcasts about All for the Game. We're not gonna get into that here, but like, that is a great example of a book where the unveiling of a character's backstory and trauma to explain the way that they are happens very slowly, but at a point where you are so bought into the plot that you're like, yeah, I want to know what's going on with this person. Same thing with Captive Prince by C.S. Passat. Another masterful example of a story that effectively is running parallel, like the actions are happening, but we are also learning more and more about the backstories of the characters. So I was like kind of stuck by my own choices about like how we depicted this relationship, because maybe a more natural spot to start would have been when Dimitri was married to Alexei. He was 20, Alexei was 28. It's not that huge of an age gap, but if you've hung around 20-year-olds and then 28-year-olds, you're like in a very different spot in life.
Yes.
that maybe was a more natural place to start. But I didn't do that. So I was in a position of needing to show two things. So one is that things were good once. Like, the relationship wasn't all bad all the time. That's not how most situations of abuse start or end, right? A lot of times the beginnings of relationships can be very romantic and loving, and love bombing is a thing, you know, where a potential abuser just like heaps compliments and attention and everything on you. And then gradually you slide down this slope of being more and more and more controlled. So Dimitri has very fond memories of his time with Alexei, and he's actually grieving the loss of this relationship because he has been so groomed over so many years to believe that Alexei was right that he has put the blame entirely on himself. And writing that really came from my own experiences as someone who has survived very abusive relationships before. I never saw that depicted in books, right? You always see like someone who escapes their abuser and is like, yeah, this person's like the devil. I never want to talk to them again. I realize immediately what they were doing was wrong. You never really see people struggling with that really complicated mix of like, I see that something wasn't good, but I still really miss him and I still really love him.
Yeah.
So that was actually where Ivan came in, because my editor was like, we have to show how Alexei actually is. We have to show how he approaches relationships, because it's going to be up to the reader to tell that Dmitri is not a reliable narrator. Alexei isn't either, right? The only reliable narrator in this book is Vasily. He kind of sees it like it is. But in this case, we needed some kind of literary device to clue the reader in that what Dmitri and Alexei were both remembering is not entirely the truth. So Ivan is Dmitri's half-brother. He is in the palace, and Alexei has chosen him to be his consort almost entirely because he looks a lot like his brother. And, you know, as if that wasn't creepy enough, Alexei is enjoying the fact that Ivan was a servant, and he was kind of plucked from obscurity by the new Tsar, and he's very, very malleable in a way that Dmitri never was. So as we watch this relationship unfold, hopefully the sense that the reader gets is, wow, like, this is probably how he was with Dmitri. Mm-hmm. Dismissive, cold, alternating, like, affection and disregard. And I wanted it to be up to the reader to realize just how bad things probably were, so that it would be all the more impactful, hopefully, when you learned the full story of what actually happened.
Yeah, definitely. I think that came through. I think when I started reading the book, I was kind of under the impression that, or assumption that there might be a redemption story for Alexei and Dmitri's love. Like, I wasn't sure which direction it was going.
a lot of people want Alexei and Dmitri to get back together.
Really?
It is a surprisingly large number, and to those people I say, please read book 2, and, like, if you still want them to get together at the end of that, like, we should have a talk.
Yeah, that might be a problem here. So starting out the book and seeing Dimitri's memories of the love, you kind of, you hope for the best for them, and he obviously still wants Alexei to a degree. But I just loved Vasily and the offsetting of his behavior compared to Alexei's, and how genuine and good he was. It just really came through because I felt for their relationship, but then the deeper you get and the more you see about how Alexei truly acted, you're like, oh no, like, even though he means well in his pursuits of protecting the people, he is toxic and a huge red flag.
Exactly. Alexei is basically like 12 walking red flags sewn together and stuffed into a suit. Like, he's not a good guy. Vasily, on the other hand, is like a huge green flag. He's meant to be like, you should be rooting for Dmitri and Vasily. He's supposed to be like the book boyfriend. He has his own traumatic past, but he has dealt with it in a more kind of effective way, and it has not turned him bitter and cynical the way that Alexei was kind of warped by his own upbringing. So they're supposed to be fairly opposite men. And hopefully that comes through. And
definitely,
again, to the people who want Alexei redemption, just be like, please read book 2.
Yeah.
I hope Vasily does it for you in book 2 at least.
Oh, Vasily is so great. Like, honestly, favorite character. Between him and I personally, my heart hurt for Ivan, because you can see, like, when you mentioned that Ivan had, like, sent letters or cards, I think at the holidays it was, to all the half siblings. I was like, he's so pure and innocent, and you want the best for him, but you can see that he's in this horrible relationship. That was hard.
There are a lot of people who say justice for Ivan, and to those people I say, read book 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a spoiler, but, like, I'm very comfortable saying that, like, I'm a writer who never actually kills my darlings, so
we love that.
If you end up permanently dead in one of my books, it's because I hate you.
Yes, as it should be.
Did you always know you wanted to do 3 points of view? You wanted to display the toxic, abusive relationship, but also the hope for a healthier, more secure option in Vasily? Like, what was how did this come from? Yeah,
this is a funny and embarrassing story. So, again, like, when I started writing The Sins on Their Bones, this book came out in 2024, but I had actually written the draft in 2021, and I had I started writing during the pandemic because my job basically like totally slowed down. I had a lot of free time and I was like, I'm just gonna, I guess, write a book. I had baked like 4 loaves of sourdough bread and like watched all of Tiger King, and I was like, I have nothing, there's nothing left for me. So I might as well like, I guess, write fantasy. And it was something I had always wanted to do but never had the time for. So I was kind of this novice writer, and this was actually the first book I had ever attempted to draft with multiple points of view. And so I was doing it, and the original draft, I always wanted to like post this on my website. I'm not legally allowed to because I've sold the rights to Penguin Random House, but like the first version of the book actually had 3 points of view: Dimitri, Alexei, and some peasant chick named Zora. Zora was a soldier in Dimitri's army and was mad that she had gotten shot during the war and was now on a vengeance quest to hunt him down in exile and kill him.
Oh.
She breaks into his house while he and Vasily are going at it, which is actually a scene I preserved in the book, just with a different character walking in.
Nice.
And they're like, have some tea. And over the course of a single conversation, her view totally flips. She decides that she is actually going to go to the palace and infiltrate it, and she is going to be the one to kill Alexei because he was wrong the entire time.
Oh.
It made no sense. The plot made no sense. I was like so into Zora, and there's actually like no romance in the book at all. It was just like a political revenge quest. And when we sent this book out on submission, my eventual editor, Amanda Ferreira, she sent back a note that was like, look, I love the premise of this book. I love Dimitri. I love the court. But who is the Zora chick? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So she was actually the one to suggest that we swap out Zora's point of view with Vasily's. Because she was like, who is more natural to send into a high stakes like infiltration situation? Is it some random peasant chick who you met an hour ago? Or is it your spy master of your court? Like, hello. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. She was also like, you know, so like, are they in love with each other? And I was like, oh, I hadn't ever considered that. It's like, I guess Vasily is kind of inappropriately in love with his boss. So I ended up rewriting the entire book in about 6 weeks because it so resonated with me that it should actually be these 3 points of view. And when I did it, it just clicked. Like, this was the story it was always supposed to be. And that is the power of an amazing editor, is like someone who can really see into the heart of a story and be like, this is actually what you need to tease out as a writer. So I didn't always originally have the book this way, and I didn't originally have these 3 points of view. But as I was rewriting it, I was like, this is how it was meant to go, because it allows for kind of the parallel disintegration of Dimitri's relationship with Alexei and the building of his relationship with Vasily. And so you get that nice, like, hopefully satisfying parallel track as a reader where, like, the minute he realizes he's actually in love with Vasily and that's the right way to be loved, he fully realizes that Alexei is just a dipshit and like never deserved him anyway.
Yeah.
Zora is still there, by the way. At the very beginning of the book, Vasily goes into a tavern and he talks to a woman who's like eating soup, and then he steals her brother's identity.
Yes.
That is Zora.
Okay.
I couldn't get rid of her entirely. I like had to
Did you keep the same name as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was like, we did have a Zora, and
her name is Zora Helevin, and her brother's Mikhail Helevin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you kept that you were able to work her into this story in some way.
Zora lives on as a bit player, but a very important one.
Yeah. Foundational to the story.
I really, on the note of like the stories kind of going in parallel, I thought it was really powerful the moment where, spoiler coming for anyone listening, the moment where they're trying to resurrect Dimitri and his consciousness is in Vasily, and they're preparing his body to be able to be resurrected, and everyone, doesn't want to watch. It's a really gruesome, terrible kind of thing to have to watch as people who loved this person. And then Dimitri saying, no, I want to watch. I want to see everything he did to me. Like, almost like the rose-colored glasses were off, and he was like, no, I need to see it.
He could only ever see it when he was looking through Vasily's eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was powerful. Really powerful.
And I think that, like, I wanted it to really be, like, it is so hard as someone who has gone through years and years and years of abuse to fully take off those rose-colored glasses, like you're saying. And one of the things that I think really helps, or at least helped me personally, is other people I really trusted and loved weighing in and being like, that this isn't okay, right? Or like, even though this happened years ago, like, that wasn't okay. You were abused. You were, a victim in this situation. And I think that sometimes what you need is hearing it from people you trust and seeing it through their eyes, because you can never fully believe yourself. There will always be self-doubt. And so I was like, not only do I love a good body sharing situation, it's just, I'm really into there's only one. So, like, there's only one body is kind of the ultimate expression of that trope. But I also thought it was really important that Dimitri get the chance to have the fullest and purest experience of, like, literally feeling what another person is feeling about what he went through, which is kind of the key that gets him to completely assimilate, like, oh yes, like, what happened to me was abuse, what happened to me was rape, I was a victim, this is not okay.
Yeah, especially as somebody who was so inexperienced with relationships, like, he really would just have nothing else to compare it to. Which
he did not have anything else to compare it to, and that was part of the naivete of that, was part of what Alexei took advantage of, because how could you know better? Like, you are taken away from everything that you know. You are very impressionable because you're quite young. You do not have a lot of experience, and this is not a spoiler because it's revealed almost at the beginning of the book. Dimitri's entire family was assassinated, and the only reason that he survived was because he was with Alexei, not with the rest of his family. And so he was thrust very early on into a role he had never been prepared for, because he was like the spare of the spare of the spare of the spare. And because of that, he really relied on Alexei as like a guide to figuring out how to rule a country when this was something he had never been prepared for. So it was very much a situation where a young, naive, impressionable person was taken advantage of by someone who was older and wiser and more worldly. And what looked like mentorship and care and love actually was just control and possession.
Absolutely. I do want to go back to COVID, because COVID was a wild and wonderful time for a lot of people. This story was born in COVID, so you have to give it also ode to the Tiger King, because you reminded me of a whole era of my life I completely forgot about.
I was sitting watching Tiger King with my spouse, and we were like, yep, this is going to be over in like 4 days, right? Delulu is the Salulu.
Yes. Did you, in that time, write like the first book and the second book? What was the publishing process for you? I know we got a little bit of it, and there was some iterating in the beginning, but overall, having kind of been a bit more of a novice author at the time, what, looking back, would you maybe do differently, or were learning lessons, or for anyone who has, a pandemic to write, should we ever get one again?
Hopefully not. So I think that, like, a couple of things. One, I was insanely lucky. I had a great editor and a great team behind me who really helped me grow as a writer. I think every writer probably has the same thing, where when you look back at something that you wrote years ago, you're like, oh, I would have done this differently, I could have done this better, because you always I mean, you should always be seeking to improve. And I think most writers with every book get better and better and better. But I'm really proud of the duology because, like I said, I had this fantastic team behind me that was helping me make this book the best it can be. And the advice that I always, when people say, what's your writing advice? I say, look, don't compare your writing to books on the shelf. Because if you locked me in my house with only Tiger King and a computer and asked me to write this book, I couldn't. This book is the work of like 100 hands. It's me, it's my critique partners, it's my editor, it's the copy editor, the proofreaders, it's the second readers, it's like ARC readers, it's everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that most writers who are aspiring to be published sometimes look at the books that make it onto the shelf and are like, I could never be this good. Well, I could never be that good either. Like, it's totally an illusion. And so you just have to write the book and trust that the story is good enough to ensnare people. And then there are a million people who will help you with like the actual writing bit of it. The one funny story that I can now tell on podcasts, because like the whole book is out and I think hopefully my publisher's happy with me, is that I didn't write this as a duology. So because I was a novice writer, I like wasn't good at planning series. Like I didn't know how to make a plot big enough to take up multiple books. And so I wrote everything as a standalone. Like I didn't have any series in me.
Okay.
So The Sins on Their Bones was written as a standalone. And indeed, if you do not read the last page of the book, it is a standalone.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
Well, the reason that we got the Lure of Their Graves is because my agent called me and my agent at the time was like, you got a deal for a duology. And I said, but it's not a duology. And she said, shut up.
It's gonna be.
She said, they want to pay you for a duology. And I was like, yeah, but it's like a single story. She's like, I don't care. They want to pay
Make
you
it
for 2 books. Make it a duology. And so I was like, okay. And so that's why, like, you see there's literally, like, maybe I win the award for, like, the most half-assed effort at making something a duology, because I show you, it's, like, it doesn't even take up a full page. It's literally, like, 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could have been done, but I kind of love that there's more, right?
Oh yeah.
So at the end of the day, I was really, really glad that I got the chance to write the second book, because the first book wasn't enough. It told a complete story, but it didn't tell a complete character arc. And so I'm really, really glad that The Lure of Their Graves exists, and I got to write something that helped to explore not just the grieving process. Like, The Sins on Their Bones is very much a grief book in a very specific way. It's like grieving what you thought you understood about your past. The Lure of Their Graves is a grief book in a different way, which is grieving what you know that you could have and what you know you deserve, but don't feel as though you can get for, like, capital R reasons. So I was just really happy to be able to write this book and give Dimitri and Vasily the story that they really, also to give Alexei what he really deserved. It's hopefully a really satisfying ending for people. I'm like really huge into fan fiction. I'm not a fan fiction writer, but I'm an extreme fan fiction consumer. And I was like, I have so many more tropes that I want to pack in. And like, arranged marriage is so good. Especially when there's someone else standing by who has to witness it, but is really the true match, and they're really in love, but they can't be together because it's a forbidden relationship. I was like,
the tension. Yeah, we love that.
Yeah.
The yearning, yes. I hope it satisfies fans of yearning.
Oh, absolutely.
100%, yes.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about the country itself, Novosvitsevo. Am I saying that right?
Another funny story. I don't know, because the audiobook team is totally phenomenal, and they actually did a lot of research into Yiddish and Hebrew and Russian pronunciations to make everything as accurate as they could. I had never said any of the names or places in the book out loud until I had to talk to them about the pronunciation. And I was like, guys, I have no idea. You run with it. So I got the chance to record part of the acknowledgements for the Lure of Their Graves. I happened to be at like the publisher's headquarters like while they were doing it, and so I got to read part of it. And they were like, well, you're saying the name of the capital wrong. And I was like, I am? And they were like, yeah, it's Rav Mikhailberg, but I'm not saying it right now, and I can't say it the right way. So I literally sat and did like 20 takes of the name of the city that I invented.
Oh my god!
And they were like, you're not doing it right. Like, you don't have like the right accent. And I'm like, I feel like such a failure. But it worked out fine. So at the end of the day, I have no idea if you're saying it right, so we're just gonna roll with it.
Okay, that must be so weird to have created something and then have to change the way you pronounce it.
It was actually one of the coolest things ever to happen to me, because then it like hit me over the head. I was like, this doesn't just belong to me now. This is bigger than just a story that I sat in my office and wrote.
Yeah.
And then thought about, it's like, there are other people who like have opinions about this and who have thought about it and worked on it. And it was really, really cool. Even if it was particularly embarrassing that I couldn't grasp how to pronounce my own capital city.
I think too, like with it having influences from a real culture, to be corrected on the pronunciation is like, okay, it feels more real because it has a correct way of being pronounced.
It does. Coming up with the world was really cool. So Novo Svetsevo is an analog for the Russian. I am Ashkenazi Jewish, so for the most part, I'm also a little bit Russian. So my ancestors came from a whole bunch of different parts of Russia. Many of them came from what was the Russian Empire but is now Lithuania. Mm-hmm. And so Lietuva, which I'm also apparently pronouncing really wrong, but that is supposed to be Lithuania.
Okay.
And the thing is like a rough analog. Now, this is mostly because I'm really bad at world building. So I started with the premise of like, well, I love this as a setting because it resonates with me personally. I really enjoyed reading Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, because if you read that and you know, like, you can actually see those Slavic influences. So I thought that it felt really natural to the story, but I also did not want to write a historical novel because I'm a researcher in real life and I did not want to be held to any sort of researcher standard. I didn't want people to be like, well, in Russia in the 1890s, like, they didn't have knobs on their stoves. They had whatever. So I was like, I'll fix that problem. I'll just make it all up.
Yeah.
No one can tell me that I'm wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, I made it up in my head.
But the other part that I really wanted to do very deliberately is, for a very long time, I had been writing books that, intentionally or not, were based on Europe, like medieval Europe and Christian religion and mythology. This was like the 6th book I had written, and all the ones previously were very much in that style of like European fantasy novels, where like everyone just happens to be like a king or a princess or a prince, and like also everyone is like white and vaguely Christian, like, because that was just what I had grown up with. But like I said, I'm Jewish, and so much of that stuff growing up as a fantasy fan just flew directly over my head. So like, it was actually a few years ago that I was on a panel with a bunch of people, and they were talking about religious influences in fantasy, and someone said something about Aslan the lion in the Chronicles of Narnia being Jesus. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, he's Jesus. And I was like, well, I didn't know that. And everyone else was like, well, it's actually like super obvious. I was like, dude, it's actually not super obvious because I don't know a ton about Jesus.
I don't know.
So, and you know, simultaneously, like, the only times that I had seen Jews in any kind of literature that I had read, it was almost entirely Holocaust narratives. And so if you were Jewish in a book, you either died in a concentration camp or you were a hero because you punched a Nazi. So I was like, okay, great. So the only people who look like me have to exist within the context of this extreme historical tragedy. Everyone apparently is getting all these things about Jesus that I completely don't understand. And I had been having trouble selling books. Like I said, this was, I think, like the 6th book that I had written. A lot of them died on submission. No editors wanted to buy them. And so at that point, I don't know if I can curse on this podcast, but I'm going to anyway.
Go ahead.
I said, fuck it.
Yeah.
I said, fuck it. I'm just going to write something that's completely for me and
Yeah.
just see what happens. So I was like, you know what? This is fantasy. Why does it have to be that all fantasy Jews happen to look like Jews in real life and everyone's confined to a ghetto and like is like subjugated? I was like, fuck it. How about I make everyone a Jew? And then I was like, wait a minute. If I'm doing that, why can't I just make it where my family was from? Like, let me just make it Russia. And I was like, what if the Tsar of Russia was a Jew? And I was like, well, that's so interesting, because you can think about the way that Ashkenazi Jewish religion and culture would have developed very, very differently if it hadn't been subjugated to Christian influences. And so this is where you actually do get a little bit into the history, and I explain it in my author's note for the Sins on Their Bones for people who are interested. Is in Eastern Europe, around the time that I was writing, Judaism went through what scholars call the Reformation, and what that was a deliberate attempt to Christianize the Jewish religion. So removed a lot of the paganistic aspects of it, removed a lot of the folk culture and religious rituals, removed a lot of things like talking about demon possession and all of that, and attempted to make religious practice look a lot more like Christians worshiping in a church. And this was done because pogroms were a huge threat to the lives of Eastern European Jews. And so the hope was that by seemingly like looking more like Christians, you would be safer as a community. So I was like, that's really interesting, but like, what would it have been if that threat wasn't there? And so you actually hopefully get in the book that there are different strands of this religion, which is just Judaism, but I came up with a fake name for it. So like what Dimitri follows is a much more mainstream version of religion, which is probably what the Reformation would have looked like if it was just like we're becoming a little more like scientific, a little less superstitious, and we're really just thinking about like how we bring our religion into the new age. And then there's the Holy Science, which is kind of a mix of pagan Jewish folk religion, Kabbalah, and Jewish mysticism, that I was like, what would have happened if that had been allowed to flourish? And like, what would the conflicts have been within the religion at that point? So I really enjoyed getting to play around with that just as kind of a, mental challenge. And I also just like, it's really important to have all different kinds of narratives, right? There are many fantasy books that are inspired by Jewish mysticism or myth or folklore or culture or religion that deal with the trauma of anti-Semitism or persecution. Like The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo is a great example, but it takes place during the Spanish Inquisition, and like everyone's always under threat because they're Jewish. And I was like, I gotta be honest, I'm just kind of sick of that. Like, I want a lot of bad stuff to happen to my characters, but I don't want anything bad to happen to them because they're Jewish. And similarly, I didn't want anything bad to happen to characters because they were queer. I was like, how about if they just all get the chance to deal with some like normal fantasy shit for once? Like what happens when your ex-husband comes back from the dead, but like way worse.
Front of the mill.
Right, like just normal shit that normal people would deal with in a fantasy book. So I was really, really lucky that I found a publisher that was wholeheartedly behind this idea and really got what I was trying to do with the world building and helped me sharpen it and make it even better. And hopefully it's something of, a comfort and a refuge for Jewish readers who will get all of the inside stuff. Mm-hmm. Now they're not going to be the ones who are confused. But also, hopefully like a little interesting view into the religion for non-Jewish readers who can get a little glimpse of the culture and religion that I grew up with.
Yeah, absolutely. It came through. I felt like I was reading, like you could feel the real life influences, even though it's fantasy, and it was just very immersive in that sense.
I also get a lot of people crediting me for being like extremely good at world building, and I'm always just like, thank you. But the truth is I stole all of it from like 14th century Jewish folk tales and like books of Kabbalistic spells and everything. And I even had, so the Owl Crate version of The Sins in Their Bones has a Havdalah prayer on the front, which is written in Hebrew. I actually believe it is the only special edition book published by special edition bookmakers that has Hebrew on the cover.
Oh, that's so cool.
But I've had a lot of people like DM me and be like, it's so cool that you created your own like language for the book, like your own like written language. Initially I was like, what? And I was like, oh, they're talking about Hebrew. And so I'm like, thanks, I worked so hard on it. I'm just a regular J.R.R. Tolkien over here. I'm like Elvish. That's 100. I'm 110% smart enough to do that. I promise.
Oh, that would be next level.
Yeah, it really would be.
That would be wild. Yeah. As an academic, having an academic background, and of course being very deep in both the religion, the culture, and the historical experience, is there anything that you drew from, like a specific scene or a specific spell or a specific legend that you drew from to create in your story?
As far as like the seeds of the idea, the inspiration, no, there wasn't one specific thing, but I can say that everything in the book, like almost everything, is real in the sense that I got it from existing sources. So like Alexia's resurrection spell is real. It comes from a folktale called the Homunculus of Maimonides, and like that folktale gave a recipe for how to create this like inhuman, undying thing called a homunculus that ended up being really bad and wrong, so it had to be killed. But you know, so like I drew from that. I drew from Jewish beliefs about this thing called the middle world, which is a layer between our world and a Jewish conception of hell, which not everyone who's Jewish believes in, but some people do, where like there's this like layer where all the demons kind of live, and it's this like intermediate space. So pretty much everything was drawn directly from source material. Like I said, I'm not actually that creative, so I just plagiarized a lot. But also like my team is like, don't say plagiarize because you didn't. Like if it's from the 1400s, it's definitely free use at this point. The copyright has definitely lapsed sometime in the last like 650 years.
Well, I think also like there's nothing wrong with using real life folktales and stuff as an inspiration. And
if C.S. Lewis can use Jesus, I can use this.
Exactly. Have you ever read The Sisters of the Winter Wood by Rena Rossner? Me too. Okay, yeah. That's what I haven't read a ton of stories that use Jewish folklore as the basis of the story kind of thing, but that is one that I remember that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so one of my favorite things in the story was the found family between Dimitri's court. It just felt so welcoming and such a good group of characters, and it really reminded me of university and living in a house with my friends and just having everybody there all the time to deal with your problems with you and to just be friends through the hard times kind of thing. So within those characters, since I loved them so much, just wondering, do you have a favorite character that you wrote yourself?
Yes, obviously. I feel really bad. So, okay. So Dimitri is in exile with the remains of his court. So we have Vasily, who is the spy master, who's super inappropriately in love with him. We have Annika, who was the general of his armies, who basically like hates war and fighting, but that's kind of the family that she was born into. We have Ladushka, who was his chancellor, so like his political strategist. And then we have Misha, who was the court physician. Misha's 110% my favorite. Like, I'm sorry to the rest of them. like I kind of am Lada, and like I would love to be friends with Anna, but like I'm sorry, it's Misha all the way. Like if I had to pick one person to hang out with, it's Misha.
Okay. Sarah, did you have a favorite?
Well, aside from the big three, I think it might be Misha as well.
Yeah.
I personally value the people in my life who like can laugh at anything, even horrific circumstances, because like that's how I get through a lot of shit.
Yes.
And that's also kind of I wanted each of them to give their own thing to Dimitri, right? I think that one of the difficult things about writing a large cast book is that you run the risk that all of your secondary characters end up feeling kind of the same. They just kind of blur together into a blob, like an undifferentiated blob that's just like friend. So I wanted each of them to have their own unique relationship with him. Like Ladushka is like extremely hard-headed, like an absolute realist, like, I'm sorry that this happened to you, but there are things on my checklist that we must accomplish. So like, sorry that you're depressed, but like get up off your ass, because if you don't, you're going to be responsible for even more death and destruction. And then Annika's very much the mother hen, like, let me take care of you physically and let me make sure that you're okay, and I'm going to knit you socks and scratch your head and like tell you that it's okay to cry. And then we all know what Vasily does for Dimitri. It's a different type of therapy. But then Misha is like that person who is like, I'm gonna give you 20 minutes to be really upset about this, and I'm gonna set a timer on my phone, and then at minute 21 we're gonna go out, get ice cream, talk. I'm not gonna judge you, I'm gonna make you laugh, then you can cry on my shoulder, but like then you're gonna feel better. Like, it's just like that kind of person that I love having in my life, and I'm very lucky to have many Mishas in my life. But I do love them all. I have a favorite, and then in the second book we have 3 suitors who the book's been out for like 6 months. I feel like I can spoil it. Like there are people who come to compete for Dimitri's hand in marriage. Because he wins back the throne, he is single. It is not deemed super appropriate that he marry Vasily because Novosvitsevo is in this bad political circumstance of being really weakened by the civil war and everything that came after. So other countries are kind of looking, coveting different parts of the territory. And so the best way for Dimitri to stop that from happening is to marry one of them. And so you got 3 suitors, and I just like, okay, so there's Aziza, who's like the badass bitch, like future ruler of her country. She's an amazing horsewoman and like has a really, really dry sense of humor and like takes no bullshit, and like everyone wants her to step on them. Like, I want her to step on me. And then there's Lucas. And Lucas is like the baby-faced, like, I'm 25 and like everything is butterflies and rainbows, and I just want to have like 20 children and take care of all of them and like make my spouse like super happy and make them pasta. Just like total like lover boy, like very sweet. And then there's Yulian, who is a total like snark master, who's like actually really soft on the inside but very spiky on the outside. And I'm like, you and Misha would just be perfect together. Like, that is like an ultimate friendship pairing. And so I was like, okay, that's like my secret favorite too. Like, I feel bad for my other kids, but like every parent has a favorite.
You gotta have a favorite.
You gotta have a favorite.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so many good ones to pick from.
There really are. And the found family was just so tight knit. And when they all were like, I will die for you, I was like, I believe it. Like, I believe it.
I love a good scene where everyone's fighting over who gets to die. And like in the like, you will not stop me from being the one to die type of way. Not like I want you to be the one to die. Like it's a group of people who are all extremely devoted to each other. And one of the other things that I wanted to do is it's a book that's fundamentally about romantic relationships, but I also really wanted to highlight the importance of friendships too, and platonic friendships, because in my life, like, my life would not be the same if I didn't have very strong romantic relationships, but also like these platonic friendship relationships. And I feel like sometimes in fantasy romance or books with a heavy romantic subplot, you lose that friendship aspect of things. And so I wanted to highlight and really celebrate all the different kinds of ways that 2 people can be there for each other. That was really important to me.
Yeah, a romantic relationship can be the star of the show, but I find books they never hit that like top tier book thing for me unless they have those really strong side character relationships as well that just rounds out the story more completely.
I think about like Six of Crows, which is a huge inspiration for me. Like, that's an awesome found family. I think about Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Like, that's another awesome found family. Like, large cast, but like everyone is kind of a key contributor. So I love books like that, and that's why I wanted to try to write one.
Yeah. Well, you accomplished it.
Yeah, mission accomplished on that.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Were there any characters, so we know your favorite, were there any characters that were hard to write or understand?
I hate Grigory Morozov. So Morozov is Alexei's chancellor. He's just like a slime ball. I tried everything I could to make him more pleasant for me to write. Like, I made him like absurdly handsome. It didn't make him any better. He's just like he's a total sycophant. Like, he just like his greatest goal in life is to like lick Alexei's boots. This dude is he's just really far gone for Alexei. He's drunk the Kool-Aid. And I found that he had no redeeming qualities whatsoever. And so every time I wrote him, I was just like, this guy sucks.
Yeah, spoiler, when he develops the claws and the demonic features, it suits him. It's like, yeah, this is what you were meant to look like all along.
It suits him really well. In the second book, he does a lot of like drooling, because I'm just like, that's just kind of him. Like, he's just like gross.
His inner personality is shining through.
It just really shines through in his looks. Exactly.
Yeah. So, Sarah, did you want to ask anything else before we talk about future things?
I think we covered mostly everything that I was curious about in different ways. So yeah, I think we can get to the good stuff about what's next
and stuff,
where we're going. I mean, this was also the good stuff, but it's amazing to know that we got more coming from you.
We do. The one book that is, I believe, up for pre-order now, we have a cover and everything. It's The Way It Haunted Him. It is a gay Jewish dark academia set in a haunted archive. And it is about Michael, who is a translator who is grieving the loss of his boyfriend. He decides to go to this archive to complete his boyfriend's dissertation research. And he's expecting the 80-year-old archivist, Eliezer, and instead is met by his absurdly handsome and very mysterious grandson. So it is a 2-character book. It is like almost entirely locked room. It's set in this one archive that ends up being infested with demons and a whole lot else. And it's like a little bit of a slow burn, but it's definitely a horror. So it's going to be different than The Sins in Their Bones. But if you're like okay with the body horror element of TSTB, like, you should be okay with the level of grossness in this book. So I'm excited for that one to come out from Titan on June 3rd of next year. And then I have another book coming in 2027 that is a horror that I can't talk about yet. And then I have another book coming in fall of 2026, which I co-wrote with Ben Alderson. It's called The Darkness Bites Back. It is a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Oxford, that is set between like the heads of 2 warring vampire families.
Okay, that's checking every box for me.
So it's like a paranormal dark academia.
I love that.
Yes, so that one we should have more details about soon. And then I have a few other secret projects that I can't say anything about yet, but hopefully I will have public information to announce soon on those.
That is so exciting. The 2 that are coming in 2026, are they both standalones? Or you can't tell us, maybe?
I can say that The Way It Haunted Him is a standalone.
Okay.
So for horror, I'm in my standalone era. So it's just going to be one and done for Michael and Jacob. But I can't say anything about the other books.
Okay. Well, we
you're
are
gonna have to wait to find out.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the dark academia thing for The Way I Haunted Him, and I love the Oxford vampires vibe for the other one. So
The two of us watched Saltburn, and we were like, we could do so much with this.
I love that.
So we were like, okay, like you gave us Jacob Elordi and the bathtub. We hand back to the darkness bites back.
Love that.
How was it, the process of writing with another person as like a growth opportunity for you, if I can?
Yeah, of course, I adore co-writing with my friends. So Ben and I work really well together. We, I think, have like very complementary strengths as writers, which is always really fun because it's great to be able to iterate with someone as you're going through the actual writing process. Like, writing is a really solitary thing, and so I find it really hard sometimes that you're sitting here immersed in this world and it's just like you're just sitting there. You don't really have anyone to talk to about it unless you want to tell your spouse about your hallucinations that you spend all day writing down. They really should be like both an award and a support group for the significant others of writers, because they're the real MVPs. But it's really cool to have that kind of collaborative partner. I love Ben. He's one of my best friends in the world. Super lucky to be able to like collaborate with him on that. And I also, one of the other projects I can't really talk about at the moment is something that I have co-written with my other best friend in the world, St. Gibson, author of Dowry of Blood. So like, what if Sierra Simone wrote Succession? Is the pitch. It is a romance with like crime thriller, wealthy people behaving badly elements. So hopefully I can talk about that soon, but similarly, like, it's really, really fun to create a sandbox that you're playing in with like your best friends in the world. I find it immensely fulfilling, and then sometimes I go write a solo project and I'm like, wow, I really wish I had someone to help me with this.
I miss people.
I'm missing people, because then I'm just stuck. I have many brilliant and wonderful writing friends who suffer me texting them texts like, I spent all weekend thinking about how I fucked up the book and now I have to start from the beginning. And I'm like, but I can't tell you how because it won't make sense because you don't know anything about these characters, but like, please pat me on the head and tell me it's going to be okay.
That's so nice to have a group of writers that you can just bounce ideas off of.
That's the other advice I give to all writers is like, you need to find the people who work in the way that you do, who can be those sounding boards. Like, I think there's a lot of talk about like beta readers on the online writing community, and that's great, but what I found to be the most helpful is to actually have like enduring, really close relationships with like very few people who I know just truly get what I'm doing in my writing style and my process and the way I create characters, but also the pitfalls that I always fall into. So they can be like, hey, by the way, remember that time when you wrote that character named Zora who just like had no fucking role in the story at all, and actually you could delete her and rewrite the book in 6 weeks because she like did that little. That's kind of what you're doing right now. That was the horrible realization I had over the weekend. I am drafting a book about a school for assassins where the final project is to kill all your classmates.
Oh,
and
love that.
I had a character and I was like, she just doesn't do anything the whole book. How did I write like probably like 30,000 words of this character and she just does jack shit the whole time. It's happening again. Yes. So like, it's really helpful, I think, to have people who like know you well enough to be like, so there's another person who you have to either kill or like actually give them like a real plot. Like, people can't just stand around and look nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's more powerful when it comes from someone who you have a relationship with. There's a built trust in there. It's collaborative. So it's not someone you don't know telling you something super kind of confronting or jarring about this piece of work that you've put a lot of time into. It's someone who you have a mutual respect with and kind of an established level of understanding, you know?
Yeah,
it's
and
different.
also, like I said, writing is a really solitary thing, and so if this is your job, it's pretty vital to find community and have other people who know what it's like, and they basically become your coworkers, right? They're colleagues, and one of the coolest things about all of this, I think, is the chance to have become very good friends with people who previously were like my literary heroes. And then like have them tell me, suck it up, like grow a spine and do the edits. I'm like, okay, I guess I have to
rewrite that part of the book.
Yeah. How was it for your other works coming? And I know we were kind of on the precipice of horror a little bit. How was it going full tilt into the horror genre for your next few works?
So, to be honest, I didn't think that there was anything horrifying about the Cursed Crown duology. So I was really surprised when people, like art creators, were like, this is gory and like has a lot of body horror. I was like, it does. But I think that's because as a writer, you don't realize that like when you publish a book, you actually have to read it like 25 times until it becomes just total nonsense. Like it loses all emotional impact. It loses all sense of like, you know, urgency or plot or anything. It just becomes words on a page. And so I didn't really realize that like I had kind of dipped my toe already into horror. The Way It Haunted Him is a little bit different in the sense that it is dealing with psychological horror in the sense that like you might have been the horror the whole time, or like the horror is inside your head.
Okay.
I'm a total wimp. I don't read horror books and I don't watch horror movies because I get scared really easily.
Me too.
So to like people who are like, how scary is it? I'm like, I don't think it's any scarier than Sins and Lure, but it's structured like a horror book. So it's probably not going to end the way that it would if I had been writing it as like a fantasy or a romance.
Right.
This is really hard. It's like really hard to like not spoil things with this one. But like just like go into it knowing that you're reading a horror.
Okay.
That could help. That could definitely.
Yeah. It's not like a super scary horror, but like hopefully it's a horror that makes you think.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And then romance is always so fun. Like it's such a fun genre to play in. I think that one of the most fun things about romance is that the structure is so defined. So when you're working with a romance readers usually expect a fairly standard structure. And so I think it's really entertaining as a writer and creator to think about like, okay, if my readers know that these characters start, they're not together, they get together, they fall in love, there's a third act breakup, usually between 66 and 72% of the book. Then they get back together and then there's a happily ever after. Like if you know the structure, how do you make it still super compelling? Like you had to be really good with the character and the relationships and the character development. And that was a really fun challenge to delve into, is really testing my skill as a writer when it came to like character interiority and voice and character arc and growth, and I think it taught me a lot. So it was a fun learning experience jumping into these two other genres.
Yeah, because romance, you can do so many things with it, and it kind of has to end with the happily ever after. If it doesn't, it's not a romance. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like,
if you want it to be under that umbrella, that genre of romance a little bit, then it has to. But how do you keep it interesting and keep people on their toes and make them want to know want to get to the end? And
What are you reading now? What are you reaching for when you're turning your brain off from writing?
So I read a lot of romance novels, and I'm not going to tell you which ones because that is between me and my Kindle Unlimited account and my secret Goodreads and God. But when it comes to fantasy, some of the books I have recently read and just absolutely loved. Savage Blooms by S.T. Gibson. It's the first book in the Unearthly Delights trilogy, and it has just come out. It is an erotic romance set in a Scottish manor house with 4 really intriguing and hot characters. So if you like Scottish and British folktales and folklore and the Fae, and you like the, like eroticism of like Sierra Simone's Thornchapel, go read Savage Blooms. I would also go look by it right now. I also Haunting of William Thorne came out in September. It's by Ben Alderson. It is a horror novel that deals with some really deep themes of grief, like societal rejection, cycles of history. This one is also like, I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil it, because it's like one of those horrors where like you should go in knowing not very much.
Nothing.
But it was amazing. And another book that's coming out, I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but it's coming out tomorrow as we're taping.
Oh, okay.
Is C.G. Drew's Hazelthorn.
Oh, I've been seeing that.
Badly behaved garden boys eating things they shouldn't is how I'll frame it, but it is a brilliant horror, and it's just like that lush gothic botanical kind of setting that C.G. is known for, and it's like amazing. Everyone should read it right now.
That was a great pitch for it too.
Yeah.
I always tell C.G., I'm like, please give me more boys eating things that they shouldn't. It's also like Don't Let the Forest In is also brilliant. It's a book that came out last year from CG, and we're friends, and I've had the privilege of reading a lot of CG's forthcoming work, and it's all absolutely brilliant. It's very strongly branded too. I was like, stop eating that and don't. It's like, stop eating that and don't go in there. Yeah. Stay out of that place and don't consume that. So that's my pitch for that. Why won't you learn? And then 2 forthcoming books I'll shout out to really quickly. The Bone Door by Frances Waite, author of Voyage of the Damned. It made me laugh, sob, if that's a word. Like, my blurb for it was like hilarious and horrifying. I'm not going to say anything about this book. Like, this is again another thing that you just need to go into completely blind. It is brilliant. It is heartbreaking. It is healing. It is just stunningly written. I am so down for this book, and I can't wait for everyone to read it. And then the other one is The Court of Venus by Belle Banta, which I've just finished. It has a totally unrepentant, unmitigated simp with one really slutty pearl earring. He is one of my new favorite literary men, and it's based off of like astrological magic. So the different planets give different powers to different magicians. It involves political intrigue, and it's got twists and turns, but also this like really intense yearning. Like, if you liked the yearning in Sins, like, you're gonna love the yearning in The Court of Venus. So
okay,
that is what I'm reading and recommending. And yeah, you'll never get out of me what's on my secret Kindle.
Fair enough.
I resonate so much to that. Like, sometimes I don't want to put the book on the Goodreads.
That's why I have a secret Goodreads. It's just letters and numbers. No one will ever find it.
To live separate.
That's like, you need one really good friend that if anything ever happens to you, will like go into your house, take your Kindle, and throw it into a river, and just where did the Kindle go? No one knows.
That is the real version of the delete my browser history. It's actually just delete my Kindle history.
just delete everything that's on my Kindle, and also just delete my entire Amazon account, and then we'll be all good. No one needs to know.
Well, I love the slutty pearl earring in that last one you were talking about.
Roland is my boy. He's got pink hair and one slutty pearl earring, and obsessed. I have very strong feelings about him, and I cannot wait for everyone to read this book.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that now.
We've got a gold mine. A gold mine of options now. I'm excited.
This is the other thing about being an author too, is like most of the books that I'm reading won't come out until at least next year. So I'm always like, it's amazing, but you're gonna have to wait, but I promise it's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth the wait.
Start building the momentum now, okay?
Yeah.
Just get ready. It's coming. You'll be happy.
Yeah. Start start stockpiling tissues. You'll need them.
So I know we've got a hidden or a secret Goodreads. Where can people find you if they wanted to follow what you're up to, what you're working on? What's the best place to go to?
If you want to follow what I'm up to and what I'm working on, there are 2 good ways to do it. So you can follow me on Instagram. It's where I'm most active. I'm at Laura R. Samotin on Instagram. It's actually the same handle across all platforms, but I don't really use the other ones, just Instagram. And you can also go to laurarsamotin.com. That's my author website where you can sign up for my newsletter. When important stuff happens, or like I go on tour or making appearances, or I have like secrets to announce, the newsletter hears it first. So sign up for that. None of that is secret, like the secret Goodreads.
And nobody go looking for the secret Goodreads.
No one will find it. It doesn't, like, I'm extremely confident that no one
super
will ever
anonymous.
figure it out. Yeah, that's not a challenge, listeners. I'm just like, you just don't need to know.
No, I totally understand. Anything else? Any final remarks? Anything we feel like we missed or want to chat about or highlight?
Don't hate me for what I did in book 1, because I swear to you I fixed it in book 2, and if you hate me for what's happening in book 2, I say to you, you haven't gotten to the ending yet. I will also highlight that if you want extra content for both books, the print copy of Sins, it's gone into a second printing. I'm not sure if it's gone into a third yet, but it now has bonus material in the back. So you'll go all the way to the end of the book and you'll find some bonus stories, and there is also a bonus epilogue in all versions of The Lure of Their Graves. Please read it because it's one of my favorite things I've ever written. It's just pure sap and love, and it's my way of making it up to readers for everything I just put into.
We love it. Anybody who hasn't read book 2, trust the process.
It involves exhausted dads and a wedding and some babysitters who are doing a really bad job. And also, the goat, guys, is fine. The goat is totally okay. He's living his happy goat life, and I wrote the epilogue half to give readers a reprieve from all the yearning and angst in Lure of Their Graves, but also to answer the question of what happened to Peter the goat from book 1. He's totally okay. No one ate him.
This is the real question.
You know, I get that question.
Keeping me up at night.
I get that question all the time, and I'm like, do I strike you as the kind of monster who would kill an innocent baby goat? Absolutely not. He went to live his best life, and then canonically now he gets adopted by Misha.
Love it. Love it. There in my city there is a coffee shop called Happy Goat Coffee Shop.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will be thinking about this goat when I go there now.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome. We loved reading your book. We loved chatting with you about it. So anybody who wants to follow Laura, you can find her on Instagram, like she said, at Laura R. Samotin. And we will see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.